Ron Casalotti is the social media lead for Bloomberg, the financial software, news, and data leader. He sets strategy and executes social media programs for both B2B and B2C audiences. Prior to Bloomberg, he was the director of user participation at Businessweek, focusing on the very well-received and very well-known Business Exchange. And he's going to share with us his perspective on how to overcome internal fears. And you can follow Ron on Twitter at Ron Casalotti. Thank you.
Have to tweet first. Good evening, and thanks, David. Good evening, everyone. I have to say the obvious up front. When David said the name of this was The Forbidden Dance, I thought I was getting Lambada instruction. So I do have my dance clothes underneath the jacket, in case it comes into play later. My name is Ron Casalotti. I'm social media lead for Bloomberg, which sounds a little amorphous. That's because Bloomberg and titles don't always go together. It's a very flat organization, and generally speaking, you're either the head of an area or you're part of the group, which sounds very much like social media, the democratization of voice. As David mentioned, I came from Business Week, which means after establishing a little beachfront there, I found out we were being sold about a year ago, and so we were wondering who was going to buy the company, would they keep the digital part or not? And Bloomberg came in and bought us, and this is really one of the, I think, keys to understanding Bloomberg and social media and even their business model going forward, and that is that the company is very successful with a limited or a specific customer group, the 280,000 or so terminal users. But Business Week was more of a B2C entity. And when we did a little study, we found that only 7% of the businessweek.com users were also Bloomberg.com users. So it's an additive thing to try to balance out the company. But before Business Week, I spent a decade with AOL. And so I've seen social media go from being down here to up here, and then AOL back down here again. And so it's been quite a ride. And when Business Week was sold to Bloomberg, and everybody was waiting around to see who would have a job and who wouldn't, they didn't get to me until the very last day before closing. Had me come into the office on Lexington Avenue from where we were on 6th and say, Ron, sit down. First of all, I tell you, your job has been eliminated. To which I thought, you could have told me that over the phone. But then they said, but we're looking for you. We don't need you to be at that level with Business Exchange, which is what I want to get to in a minute. But we do need somebody to handle social media for Bloomberg in general. And I had looked around, of course, beforehand, and I didn't see where it was being done at all. And so I said to them, if you're not doing it because you don't want it at all, it's a very short conversation. If you're not doing it because you need somebody who understands it to sort of like shepherd it through the process and roll it out in a much used but actually accurate term, the Bloomberg way, then we have an opportunity here. And luckily, that's what they wanted. However, at Bloomberg, and this is one of the questions that might come up later, social media is led by public relations. And so you're looking at somebody who has a 5.5-month public relations career. At Business Week, it was in digital, and at AOL, it was in product, and many companies have it in marketing. And so wherever you are, it could be a little different in your organization. Bloomberg, of course, is interesting. Is the leader in business information. We have, as I mentioned, 280,000 terminals, large news organization in 74 countries. But Business Week, we had a thing called Business Exchange, and that was a social media platform that was not geared about you and your friends or you and the company you work for and the people who work with you, but about your business-oriented interests. And so we created something where we actually had to approve the business topic, and then we had people, we had to crowdsource these topics. We have 1,706 topics as of this morning, of which about 1,500 were suggested by our audience. And so we were able to get people to be active in topics they were interested in a way that was business-oriented. And that's one of the ways that we thought business can use social media. What we're doing now at Bloomberg is slowly rolling out the use of Twitter for various parts of the company. We created a social media policy that basically says if it's a Bloomberg branded social media account, especially if it's Twitter or blogs, then it's run by PR. There's a little bit more leeway if it's Facebook or LinkedIn, then marketing gets more involved. There's a bit of a tug of war, as you might imagine. And so going forward, we're going to be getting it more involved, even though we have some people in the company who don't understand social media, who actually are afraid or can't see the value up front of what we're trying to do. So in closing for now, let me just say that if you're looking at getting into social media, first thing you have to do is determine what's your success metric. What are you trying to get out of it? Are you trying to build a brand? Are you trying to protect a brand and put out fires? Are you trying to market a product? Are you looking to replace expensive customer service calls with either crowdsourced or online solutions? Are you looking to recruit the best people coming out of colleges who are social media savvy? These are all different goals, and you have to determine which works for you. Determine what your success metric is, because somewhere down the line, someone's going to say, did we succeed or not? And unless you know up front, well, we've succeeded if we were able to do X, and you find yourself on very shaky ground. Talk to you more in the question and answer. Thanks.